Hello, everybody, and welcome to a BLT and E edition of the Caps Locks and Chair Shots podcast. I am Ed Brickeen. I am your host. I am joined by my two co-hosts, Danny and Jaime. How you guys doing today?
What's up?
I'm
Time to
doing
talk
good.
something
I'm
about
glad
something I
you
know more.
There you
glad
go.
you didn't call me your man this time because I'm not your man.
Ah, that's true. I could do better. Anyway,
You wish.
if you recognize their voices, these two are my co-hosts for the regular professional wrestling version of the Caps Locks and Chair Shots podcast. But we do things a little bit differently when we talk about sports outside of professional wrestling. And this topic today are MMA fighters. We have a tournament crowning the top 8 fighters, and we're going to determine who is the greatest MMA fighter of all time. Now, before we get there and before we reveal our seedings, let's talk about some honorable mentions. Daniel, I am going to give you a name, and Jaime, I'm going to give you the next one. And you're going to tell me how you feel about these particular fighters and whether or not they should be in this tournament. Dan, we're going to start with you. Frank Shamrock.
No.
Why?
There's much better MMA champions out there.
Fair enough. Jaime. Conor McGregor.
Yeah, of course.
You think he should be
too
in the
much of a
tournament?
big name to opt out.
Would he be the number 9 seed, you think?
Yeah, judging by he just emerged in the latter days of the UFC, so he's going to be seated lower by virtue of that.
Royce Gracie, Daniel. Should he be in this tournament?
Yes.
Really, he's one of the top 8 wrestlers or fighters of all time.
Yeah, I think Royce Gracie is probably top 5 when it comes to.
Ooh. Well, we're gonna reveal who's ahead of him here shortly. Daniel Cormier, Jaime. Did he deserve it, or is he an honorable mention?
I think he's an honorable mention.
Tito Ortiz, Daniel.
I would not. I would not be opposed to Tito Ortiz being in it, but if he's out, he's out.
Okay, how about Mark Coleman, Jaime?
Yeah, he made as much impact in Pride as in UFC, so we can leave him out. Let's just leave him in honorable mentions.
Okay, now Daniel, this is one of my favorite UFC guys, mainly because I don't watch a lot of UFC. Uriah Faber.
No, Uriah Faber should not be included in this. Faber is a face of MMA, but Faber is not a top 8 fighter all time.
How about Rich Franklin?
Jaime?
Well, if Anderson Silva didn't beat him, he'd probably make this tournament. But right now, he's an honorable mention.
All right, Daniel, Forrest Griffin.
Griffin's another guy like Faber, big impact on MMA and what he did. But no, he's not top 8.
All right. And Jaime, last honorable mention, Vitor Belfort.
He was in the UFC during the early days, but he didn't really make that much impact as a UFC champion. So let's just leave him honorable mention.
Fair enough. All right. You guys ready? I'm going to read these in no particular order. Then I will reveal where they were seated. I'm going to give you a name, and I want you both to tell me where you think they belong in the seating chart. Let's go with Matt Hughes. Daniel, where does he go?
Not on the chart.
Really?
So 8.
Okay, Jaime, where you got him?
I think I'll put him in number 5 on the list because
Ooh, has
he's
Jaime
one of
been
the
cheating?
forefathers. Like, even his legacy, his help in building the UFC surpasses what George St. Pierre did.
Well, Matt Hughes comes in at number 4. BJ Penn. Daniel, where does he go?
I put Penn probably 6 or 7.
Ooh. Has Dan been cheating? Jaime, where does he go?
DJ Penn, I think he could go number 8.
Fair enough. All right, Randy Couture. Jaime, where's he at? Oh, by the way,
Randy
BJ Penn was
Couture-
number 6. Sorry. BJ Penn was number 6. Jaime, Randy Couture.
Couture, I'll put him in maybe number 4.
Okay. Daniel?
Couture's going to be like a 7-8 seed for me.
Once again, Daniel's been cheating. He actually came in at number 7, and the reason he is so low is because he shares the name with Juicy Couture, and I'm just not a fashion guy. Let's go with GSP. Jaime, where's GSP?
He's a clear number 2. He could make number 1, but for me, he's number 2.
He is the shit. Daniel?
He's number 3.
No, he's number 2. Jaime's correct. Let's go with John Bones Jones. Dan, where's he at?
John Jones should have been the clear number 1.
Really?
Yes.
Jaime, what about you? Where's John
I
Bones
agree.
Jones?
I agree with Dan. John Jones should be number 1.
Well, that's why I'm running the show and you guys aren't. He's actually coming in at number 3, Chuck Liddell Daniel.
Chuck Liddell's 5, 6, 7.
Jaime?
Number 5.
He is number 5. Ken Shamrock, Dan.
Should not be on here.
Really?
Yeah. That's your wrestling bias.
Well, let's get a little bit more energy from you. Jaime, where you at?
Honorable mention.
Fair enough. Let's go with Anderson Silva. Jaime, where's he at?
Number 3.
Number 2.
Number 1. All right. So now we have our seeds. Let's go with our bracket, shall we, gentlemen? Well, first off, we read everybody that I considered. Is there anybody that we should have considered?
A lot of people should have been considered, Ed. A lot.
Well, I don't know who a lot is. He sounds like a great fighter if you feel so.
Tyrone Woodley should have been an honorable mention.
Isn't he a defensive tackle?
Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. Probably one of the best pound-per-pound fighters out there.
Is he related to The Rock?
No. Jaime, who else would you like to
So
add?
let's be clear. Let's get the people on from Webster's on the phone. A lot now quantifies as 2. So thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
I mean, we can
Frank Mir can be mentioned.
Frank Mir is another one. I mean, you're asking me to just list everybody right off the top of my head.
I think Kamaru Usman deserves a mention. He's on the way to becoming a George St. Pierre.
He's still so young, though.
Yeah, he's still so young, though.
I mean, Dan Severn could be mentioned. How
about the women's MMA fighters?
Matt Sierra, Ronda Rousey.
Didn't go with the women's, mainly because, there for a while. Dana White didn't go with the women for a while. Matt Serra, yes. Possibly. Frank Mir, yes. I left them off, and I shouldn't have. You're right. They should have at least gotten honorable mentions.
Stephen Bonner.
Yes, him too.
For honorable mention.
Yes, he should have gotten one as well. So, anybody else, Dan?
No, I won't make
Kenny Florian.
Can I kick him off this call? No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, let's start with our fights. And in a round 1 matchup, Anderson Silva, the number 1 overall seed, is going to take on Ken Shamrock. Jaime, we know who wins this, right?
Anderson Silva, no questions asked.
Are we in agreement?
No discussion.
Daniel?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like a first round knockout.
All right, in a 4-5 matchup, Matt Hughes takes on Chuck Liddell. Daniel?
I am going to go Matt Hughes here.
Fair enough. Jaime?
Accomplishments-wise, they're kind of tied, Matt Hughes and Chuck Liddell, but legacy-wise, I think Chuck Liddell had more of an impact in the UFC, legacy-wise.
Dan, do you agree?
Yeah, I would say Chuck Liddell had a little bit more of a impact.
Yeah, because there was a time that the light heavyweight division was the UFC, and the welterweight division was just another division.
Chuck Liddell moves on. John Bones Jones, the number 3 seed, is going to take on BJ Penn, the number 6 seed. Who we got, gentlemen?
This for sure is a complete wiping of BJ Penn and John Jones.
Yeah. It's domination. John Jones.
Domination. Domination.
Anyway, Randy Couture, the number 7 seed, is going to take on George Rush St. Pierre. Who do we got, gentlemen?
Sad to see Couture go. I'm going GSP.
I'm going to go Couture.
Interesting. State your case.
I think Couture has had a just as relevant career as GSP when we're talking about UFC legacies. GSP walked away at one point in time. GSP also refused to take certain fights. Couture was there to take anyone, anytime, any day.
Now, I wanted to ask
true.
you... Go on, Dan, sorry.
No, I was finished. That was Jaime talker.
Okay, now, I wanted to ask you guys, when you're making these decisions, what about crossover appeal? For example, Randy Couture's been in movies where GSP is not. Does that factor anywhere into this?
For me, no, not so much. For me, I'm just looking at it straight up from a in-ring and MMA career perspective.
Jaime, what about you?
Yeah. I'm only going GSP because of the legacy and, the dominance he had in the welterweight division. But I hate to say I agree with Dan, but I'm still sticking with GSP in terms of, how he dominated his division compared to Couture.
Okay, now...
Couture mixed wins and losses.
So he agrees, so that means that Couture moves on.
Now, very, very well. I'm going to bring up a name that neither of you guys mentioned, but his impact on the UFC cannot be denied, and his crossover appeal definitely cannot be denied, and that's Brock Lesnar.
I knew that was coming.
Well, should he be considered for any of this?
He can be a
not
honorable mention. If you want to put
honorable mention.
He for sure is definitely not top 8.
No, but it cannot be ignored what he did for the UFC, though, correct?
No. Yeah, Brock's a draw.
I mean, I think the Dana White and UFC realizes that when they brought him back for, what was it, UFC 200?
Honestly, I don't know.
Jaime?
Yeah, they brought him back, yeah.
It was for UFC 200, right?
Yeah. They didn't really care if Brock would test positive for banned substances. They just needed him on that card.
Well, I mean, because they announced the testing after the fact, and no, you can't unbuy a pay-per-view, But
true, yeah.
I mean, how big of a star was Lesnar in the UFC when you say Brock Lesnar and people don't automatically go to the WWE? They think, hey, there's a good majority of people out there that would say that's a UFC guy.
I think before Brock Lesnar fought in the UFC, there was like a division between UFC fans and WWE. Well, pro wrestling fans, because UFC fans will say, "Oh, that's fake. This is the real thing, UFC." But I think when Brock Lesnar came over to the UFC, it bridged that gap.
Yeah, I believe you're right. Dan, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I agree with Jaime. It's definitely a bridge gap there.
Now, one thing that's pretty interesting, you talk about the division between the two. I'm a big wrestling historian. We all know this. It's one of the reasons we have the second half of this show. But UFC is one of the reasons that places like ECW and even WCW had such a hard time getting on pay-per-view, because a lot of the pay-per-view distributors associated professional wrestling with UFC. And it's kind of crazy how this has all come full circle when it comes to the symbiotic relationship that those two have. And additionally, boxing is kind of on the periphery of both of those as well, with a lot of crossover between all three of them. It's just an interesting little dynamic we have going there. You guys ready for the second round?
Let's do it.
Let's do this.
Anderson Silva, the number 1 overall seed, takes on Chuck Liddell. Jaime, who's your man?
Still going Anderson Silva here because they're pretty much the same age. Anderson Silva just came over a bit later than Liddell, let's say, but Silva was able to sustain his dominance for a longer period.
Daniel, do you agree?
I agree wholeheartedly.
Well, so much for having good argumentative content on this show.
I mean, not for that one. Your seedings were awful.
I know.
Don't tell any. I won't tell anyone else though. Just the millions and millions of people listening to this.
And yeah, the ones and twos of people that listen to this show. John Bones Jones, the number 3 seed, takes on Randy Couture, the number 7 seed. Who you got, Daniel?
It's just
You're not Daniel, Jaime. I asked for Daniel.
okay.
Bones.
What's up? Who you got, Dan?
Who is it again? Jesus Christ.
John Jones and Randy Couture.
John Jones.
Explain.
One of the most freaking influential powerhouses of UFC ever. He is influential on a positive and a negative.
I'm glad you pronounced that correctly this second time around. Jaime, do you agree?
And Jones is a generational talent. So yeah. And John Jones versus Randy Couture, it's just like a light heavyweight matchup that we all know what's gonna happen.
And can we just say John Jones is not a generational talent? John Jones is from a generational gene pool of complete and utter insanity, considering him and his 3 other brothers are all professional athletes.
Who are his 3 other brothers?
Or the 2 other? The 2, Arthur Jones, Chandler Jones.
And they are UFC guys?
No, they're both professional. They're both NFL players.
Can you imagine that Thanksgiving table? Like, who do you think breaks the wishbone on that one?
I'm pretty sure it's just those 3.
Like I said, who do you think breaks the wishbone there? All right, so you guys agree that both? Yeah, easy for me to say. John Jones is going then, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you guys actively watch the UFC now? Is it still a thing?
Well, nobody can actively watch it right now.
You know what I mean. I feel like the popularity has greatly dropped off. Even, I mean, obviously everything's dropped off since about February, but still, like, I feel that UFC is not nearly as hot as what it used to be.
I feel like part of the big
I agree with that
is I don't think this ESPN Plus deal that they signed was really the most beneficial for me, simply because I'm not subscribed to ESPN Plus, so a lot of the fight nights I miss out on.
Now, I heard a rumor, and it could just be a rumor for rumor's sake, that the UFC was a lot like a pilot program to make sure that Fox could handle having a sports or sports entertainment kind of thing in prime time, and it paved the way for the WWE. Does that make sense?
I'm sorry, you cut out. You cut out.
Okay.
There's some good points there.
You cut out for me. I honestly didn't hear you.
Okay, Dan, let me explain it to you this way. ECW. Familiar?
Yeah.
Oh, they were on TNN for a year. Right?
Yeah.
And they were basically the precursor to Raw going to TNN, or Spike TV, whatever you want to call it. There are some that have said that UFC was the same thing leading into SmackDown. How do you feel about that?
I feel like that's pretty accurate.
Fair enough. Will UFC ever rival the WWE again?
No, two completely different spectrums.
Are they?
Yeah.
You don't think that they're kind of drawing from the same gene pool there?
No.
Let me ask you a question, Dan. Are you a wrestling fan?
Yeah.
Are you on a show talking about the UFC?
Yeah, but I'm also a UFC fan.
Right, which means they're kind of drawing from the same pool.
Well, I'm a fan of all things sports, so...
Well, you're still... Even if you are a man of one in a pool, they are still drawing you. So, yes. The correct answer is yes.
No, I don't. Because I can name probably 50 to 60 people that aren't WWE fans and 50 to 60 people that aren't UFC fans that are just the fans of those two things.
And you could probably name 50 or 60 people that are fans of both.
I could not.
10?
Maybe 5.
I find that hard to believe.
I think it's two completely different spectrums.
I think that's literally borderline the exact same. With the exception that UFC still ponies up to the fact that they're trying to be real.
Trying to be real? Are you like reverse Ronda Rousey right now?
All I'm saying is boxing
There is no storyline with UFC. There are no...
That's funny. If there's no storyline with UFC, why do we have press conferences? Why do we have weigh-ins? To build a story with a UFC fight.
It's not scripted.
Okay. Boxing's not scripted either.
Hi, man. Who are you backing up here?
You two have good arguments, but my point here is probably MMA.
Go ahead.
Hey, here's the thing. MMA lost its steam. For a time, it's hotter than the WWE, hotter than professional wrestling, but it's completely different now. Like, if you tune out in MMA for, let's say, just a year or two, you're going to be surprised with the new names on the list. Unlike before, even if you tune out for a year or two, you'll still see Anderson Silva dominating, GSP dominating.
Well, I think that depends on what time of the year you tune out, because, I mean, you're going to see Conor McGregor once a year. So if you tune out at the right part of the year, it'll just be like yesterday.
Even Conor McGregor gets beaten. That's the point.
Only if it's Floyd Mayweather in a boxing match.
What do you mean? Conor's literally lost his last fight.
What?
Conor literally lost, his last 2 fights, if I'm not mistaken?
It's called being facetious, Daniel.
Oh my god, I can't handle you two. I actually more so just can't handle Ed right now. Trying to say that wrestling and UFC are the same thing.
All I'm saying is, brawl for all.
People like drama.
Did I just break Dan? I think I just broke him.
I gotta go. You guys can catch me on twitch.tv.
Let's go to the finals first, Dan. Anderson Silva takes on the number 3 seed, John Bones Jones. Daniel, who do you have?
What should have been number 1 seed, John Bones Jones.
Jaime. Wait.
Finally, we get to see to compete.
Wait. Daniel, explain.
Jones is a generational talent. Jones is the greatest of all time when it comes to it. He is one of the most influential fighters of all time. And I think everyone will know that he would just whip his ass.
Say wipe or whip?
Well, both. He'll whip his ass and then wipe his own ass with what's left of him.
Oh, because the way you made it sounded like there was like some... Anyway, Jaime, do you agree?
I agree. Here's a hot take. Anything Anderson Silva can do, John Jones can do better. Like, even if Anderson Silva has the more powerful strikes, Jones can strike better than Anderson Silva due to that range.
Fair enough. Now, Answer me this question. Who was the MMA guy that broke his leg real bad? Threw the kick.
Chris Weidman.
No. I thought that was Silva. He threw a kick and his leg just
Silva.
Folded in half. Okay. You guys know who Sid Vicious is, right? Sid Justice, WWE, WCW guy. He's the same guy.
Psycho Sid.
Right. Second rope, snapped his leg in half. Which one was worse?
Silva.
You think?
Silva.
Yeah.
Okay, Daniel. You're close enough to Washington. You know who Joe Theismann is. Was his broken leg worse?
Nah, man. I don't think. I think maybe the worst broken leg I've ever seen was probably the. Well, I can name two. Both were basketball broken legs that were worse than Silva's.
I think I know where you're going, but give me both.
Gordon Hayward.
Oh God, that still hurts me.
And the other one, I can't remember the kid's name, but
Kevin Ware.
Yeah, that was probably it. Yep.
College basketball.
Yes.
That's the worst. Kevin Ware.
Yeah, Kevin Ware is by far the worst. When the leg his bone literally went through his skin.
Have you seen the Monday Night Football replay for Joe Theismann?
Yeah, that one. I mean, that one's bad. Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's just so bad, and that wrecked his career. I mean, really, Silva's career's never been the same. Gordon Hayward. I mean, where has he been? Is he still a thing in Boston?
Yeah, I mean, he's their star.
Yeah.
He's their star? I thought Kyrie was their star.
Kyrie plays for Brooklyn.
No. Kyrie's in Brooklyn already.
Wow. That's what happens when you grow up without an NBA team. Although I do play NBA 2K20. Not very well. Alright, guys, so...
Let's play for money.
What's that?
Let's play for money.
Let's not. So we crown our best UFC MMA champion of all time, and it's John Bones Jones. We've already called him a generational talent. Actually, Dan said he was not a generational talent. He just comes from a generational talented gene pool or something like that, right? Okay, well, John Bones Jones is our champion. Gentlemen, you guys have ripped me apart for the seeding. You've ripped me apart for who actually made the tournament. And you've ripped me apart for the honorable mentions that didn't get mentioned. Anything else?
You need a haircut.
Actually, I just got a haircut. I think I look pretty sexy.
Alright, this is getting weird. I gotta go.
Alright. Well, that's going to wrap things up on this quick hitter version of the Caps Locks and Cherry Shots BLTNE podcast. We're glad you joined us, and hopefully you tune in next time when we cover the NBA and the greatest NBA players of all time. It'll be myself and Branson Van Vliet making his podcasting debut. And we may have another special guest coming up here shortly. You can also tune in for other shows that include a Best Finisher show with myself and a special guest, which I will not reveal. Bino Machino, the godfather of the CLANDCS podcast, he's coming back, and we're going to talk about entrance music. The MLB starting nine, me and Dan are going to go head-to-head. We're going to reveal our starting nine plus a DH coming up in a future show. And Bill Grigsby is going to come back, and we're going to talk about the top 6 players for both of our fantasy teams. All right, guys. Thank you all for being here. And for those of you listening, thank you all for tuning in. You can find all of our episodes right here where you're listening to my voice on Anchor FM, Spotify, and YouTube. And as always, thank you for listening to the Caps Locks and Chair Shots podcast. And if you're not down with us, we got 2 words for you. Keep listening.